Hey everybody, it's Kristie with FurBabies and Friends. I am a positive reinforcement-based trainer in Glendale, Arizona, and I am going to go over some cue sequencing. So if you've already learned the basics, sit, stand, down, watch, stay or come, or you've even gone into more intermediate tasks such as spin, twirl, orbit, weave, and you feel like you're maxed out or your dog has become a one and done, meaning you ask them for a sit and they're like, and good boy. You ask them for a sit and then they pop back up and they move on to something else. The best way to help your dog learn and listen for your next cue or your next ask is to work on sequencing. It's also a really good way to help. Initially, when you're training, you want to reward every single behavior. So you're being really positive and you're reinforcing all of those behaviors. But as your dog gets better, we start to wean off the reinforcement. So you may use variable reinforcement. So you may treat every other time, every 2 times, every 3 times versus continuous reinforcement. Or you could use like intermittent reinforcement where the dog is not sure when the reward is coming. So by changing up your reinforcement schedules as your dog has learned the behavior and gets better is a way to help your dog become a little less reliant on treats and help them learn to work harder and longer for you before the reinforcement comes. So it's always good to start with just the basics and start slow. Make sure you're not repeating your cues. If while you're doing this, you find yourself being repetitious in your cues, especially your verbal cues, then you need to go back a few steps and rebuild that behavior. Be more prescriptive with your luring, with your verbal cues while you're sequencing to make sure that the verbal cue and the hand signal are kind of coming one and the same so that the dog understands and continues to move forward. So here's an example of, for basics of an easy cue that you could use, a sequence that you could use. So Apollo's already in a down right now. So because he's already in a down, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask him for a sit. I'm going to ask him for a stand, back into a sit, down, and then down, and then I'm going to reward him. So in that sequence, I asked him for 4 behaviors before I rewarded him, and he listened and waited. You can also vary the time in between cue asks to help your dog learn to basically implied stay or wait until the next. So I could say, stand, sit, stand, sit, down, down. Good boy. Then I rewarded him again. Make sure too that this is where people get, they struggle a little bit with beginner obedience cues because you don't have that much, but don't forget, you could ask for a watch, stand, spin, sit, stand, sit, stand, down. Good boy. So I threw a little spin in there just to mix it up a little bit, but notice how he's still in a down because he's waiting for my next ask. That's crucial. I have worked with him enough. I've sequenced him enough. We've done enough repetitions and we're working together that he knows he should wait until I ask him for the next cue. So mix it up. Have fun. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You might even sometimes people have a hard time thinking or remembering which cues to ask. It doesn't matter. Create a little map on a whiteboard or a little sheet beforehand to just think about what cues you want to run through or what sequence, but keep it variable so that the dog has to keep guessing. It is the best way to help them learn for a little bit of impulse control, help them learn to stay in the last position and wait until you cue them for something else. This is the best way to help your dog. If your dog is a one and done, you really want to start building those sequence of behaviors from, start off with 2, then move to 3 behaviors, then 4 behaviors, then 5, then 6. See how many you can go before your dog checks out. If your dog checks out, let's say you get to 8 behaviors and your dog's like, oh, and I'm done, I've lost interest. Go back to 7 behaviors and rebuild it to 7. then gradually add the 8th back in. So this is always a good way to check and see if your dog is still motivated and to kind of see what their tolerance level is. Apollo has a much higher tolerance level for cue sequencing. Mela gets bored really easy. She likes to move super duper fast, but then she's like, and I'm done. So every dog is different. Just because Apollo can do it, even though they kind of learn the same thing, they're very different dogs and they have very different drives. So you just have to work with it. So don't get frustrated. Just be patient, have a training plan, have a learning plan, and move from there. So we'll show one more. Ready? Leave. Leave. Good. Sit. Spin. Heel. Sit. Leave. Leave. Sit. Twirl. Sit. Down. Good boy. Apollo's an old soul. He doesn't like to move very fast, but he's good at it and he listens and he waits. So I hope that was helpful in thinking about sequencing and some of the things that you can do to help your dog be more engaged, be more attentive, be more focused. Watch. And how to kind of help once they have a really strong core, how to help wean them off of the need for as frequent of rewarding, whether it be through toys, treats, affection, or anything your dog finds enjoyable, but to make sure that they're still wanting to work for you and still learning to wait and listen. So I hope you enjoyed this video and it helps you and your dog progress in your dog training journey. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, or comment. I'm always happy to answer any questions that you may be having, or if you're struggling with your dog, or if you live in the Glendale, Arizona area, I'd always be happy to help work with you one-on-one, or group classes are always a great way to not only socialize your dog, but also gain some real life, real world relevant skills. So that's it for this video and have a great day. Thank you so much.